Okay, so to start with, we're going to start with the compressor. This is a Sparmax TC620X. It normally comes in black, but this is orange because I thought it was cool. You could either get one of those, or this is a portable one. Got this on Amazon, whatever. This is okay as like a touch-up if you're using mainly spray cans, brushes, and then you want to be able to touch up. This is okay, but it's not great when you're beginning. It's a bit too difficult to use. So get one of those. This one is a bit expensive, but it has a lot of power. So if you're looking to do big murals and airbrush a lot, something like this will be valuable in the long run. If not, you can get a cheaper one. They start at about £80 for a good ones in the UK. What you want is a compressor with a tank. So this is a mini compressor, or it's got mini pistons as opposed to a regular compressor that's very loud. So it's quiet, it's portable, still heavy, but it's great for airbrushing. It's got two outlets for two airbrushes, but really an airbrush is so hungry as far as like air consumption, you can't use two at the same time. And even if you use one, you can only paint for about 20 minutes, then you have to stop in 20 minutes because otherwise you can burn the compressor, and obviously you don't want to do that. These are the hoses that I get. They're braided hose, and they're quite thick. You don't want to get the coil ones that come with cheap airbrushes. These ones are a nightmare, and they just get tangled, and it's not easy to paint with. This is 3 meters. Get a 3 meters. Don't get smaller. When you're doing events and stuff, this is really cool. Also, you need to get this is a moisture trap, and it traps the moisture, which sometimes can be in the tank. It's only £5, but it's very useful to get one of those. Really, really good. Up next, we're going to go with the cans, because that's probably going to be one of the most important thing that people use. So these are my two favorites. When I'm talking about the paint in another segment coming up, I'm going to go more into depth about paint, but this is high pressure, low pressure. Got 94 and hardcore. These are the main two that I use. You'll use different cans over time. You'll need some type of primer. This is a adhesion promoter. It's a plastic primer. We've got some lacquer. It's a very good lacquer, WRX, and some spray mount for if you're going to do stencils. I also use a lot of vinyl matte paint. So this is, I get these bottles, these plastic bottles, and I do my own mixes and I put them in there. Again, coming up in a next segment, but these are really handy, and you'll need a lot of emulsion paint, because even if you use cans, you'll have to use some emulsion paint. Airbrush paints, these are the ones I use, golden high flow acrylics, and I put them in these bottles. Really, really good paint. You'll need some type of spatula like this. These are Venetian plaster trowels. They're very flexible compared to like a regular trowel. These are great for effects. Like in the segment when I'm talking about this, how to do these type of effects, these are really good. They're not necessary. You can use different spatulas, but these are very, very cool. They're very fun to use, and they do a great job. I've got two different sizes. They work really well. The big one is basically quick, but sometimes when something is uneven, having a small one just works easier. These are also my airbrush paints. I put them in these smaller bottles. They're just easier when I'm working as opposed to something like this. But you don't have to. You can just stick to the bottles that they come in. That's very, very useful. If you're going to do logos, and as a mural artist, this is something you're going to be doing a lot, that's logos. So having a laser level, this is a self-leveling level. This one is really cool because it's got a USB-C charging port. I've gone to jobs, I've gone once or twice on a job where I had a different one with batteries and it ran out of batteries, and I was kind of stuck. So that's why I ditched it and then went to, actually got stolen, but then I went to USB-C for convenience, because I always have some of those, and you definitely want to have some of those. These are battery banks, either for your phone or for this or whatever. When you're working, you need extra power. So having some battery banks is really cool. These are fast chargers, so definitely have some of those. I've also got this. This is a AC power bank, so you can actually plug something. This has got a UK, actually it's got international plug, and you can plug whatever you want in there. This particular model is 100 watts, so it'll be totally fine for your laptop, projector, your phone, tablet, all that stuff. And I mainly have it for the projector. Oh, actually, I don't have the projector here. When I use a projector, I go to a job, I put it on the tripod, I plug this in, and I don't have to look for a socket around the room or something. Maybe I have to, I was doing a job where I had to do loads of text around, and I didn't have to have a reel and then connect everything, look for a different socket or whatever. I could just connect it to that and then just move the whole kit as I went. So having something like this is super useful. These lights, I'm actually filming with one of them. They're a great thing to have when you're working, because sometimes it's a bit dark where you're going to be working, and having some type of large light source is super handy, mixed with some type of stand. This is a heavy duty stand, it's like 3 meters tall or something. Paired with this, it's very cool. Sometimes it'll be useful. You'll also need a bunch of tape. Again, going in the segment about tape in one of the next videos. A chalk line is pretty much the same as a laser, but sometimes it's super sunny and you can't see the laser, so having something a bit old school can be really useful. So having a chalk line is really cool. You'll obviously need a bunch of brushes, from artist brushes to decorating brushes. You can get whatever you want. I tend to get fairly cheap ones, as long as they're bouncy and they're smooth. They're the ones I use, they're fine. You can use expensive brushes. I just don't see a massive difference. Don't go for really cheap ones, because sometimes the hairs come out and it's a bit of a nuisance. These are buffing pads. You just put your hand there and then you buff the car or whatever. But I use it because it's got a slight texture, so this is kind of cool. I'll show you in a segment about how to paint rust, how you can use this. This is also for cleaning a car. It's a sort of glove, and then you can just dab and create effects. Also really useful for distress patterns, rust, that kind of thing. And I'll show you that coming up. These are rubber combs, and they're for wood effects. Very cheap, they're under £10, and I've got 2 different sizes. It comes in a pack of 3, but I found a big and a small is enough. I'll show you how to do fake wood with this. Very useful and very satisfying, quite like those. Next, you need some containers for your paint. I really like these. These are food containers, and they work really well. You get to use them, and then what I do, I normally let them dry around the workshop, and then when it dries, then I can just reuse them, so they're convenient. Some cups, sometimes this is actually better, especially when you're at a show. Something like this is not ideal, because people will talk to you and you're holding it and then you can spill. It's not great. So having something like a plastic cup like this is really useful. But the ones I like the most, I think these are for medicine, and they got little graduations. These are 30 mil, and they're very small. So when you're using airbrush paints and you want to mix your paint, and you don't have to waste a lot of paint by going on the side or whatever, you can just put that in there and then do your mix, and pretty much everything gets used. You don't waste a lot. Even if you're using acrylics, with something like this, you don't waste a lot of paint, so that's really useful. Cool, up next, got marker pens, got Sharpie. You gotta have a Sharpie. I use a Sharpie for random things, like the name of the compressor. I would just write that on there. It's really useful for just a lot of random things, but not so much for art. For art, I use Posca pens. These are super useful. I use three different sizes, going over that in the marker pens section. Stanley knife, very useful. You'll need that definitely. I like these. These are Alpha. They're I think Japanese, and they got like a turny thing. I prefer these ones to the push ones. Definitely like the snap-off blades. I find it just better because you can keep them sharp and snap off the blades and make sure it's always sharp. This is actually quite useful. I don't think I've showed it in any of the segments. As you can tell, I'm filming this one near the end of the course. This is a spike, it's a wheel. So as you can see, it's got these little spikes. And when you're using that on paper, you're going like this and you're making a bunch of little holes. And then you can use either an airbrush or most likely a spray can to paint over the holes. And it allows you to trace without cutting your paper and making it flimsy. So this tool is very quite useful. Of course, you'll need an airbrush. My airbrush is being cleaned at the moment, so it's in the box, it's taken apart. When I'm not using it, I like to take it apart, put it in water, and put some airbrush cleaner with it, and it allows the airbrush to be soaking, like all the dry paint to be soaking in water and cleaner. So every time I want to use it, I put it together and then I use it. It's just a thing I do. Works pretty well. You'll definitely need a roller and some sleeves and a tray or a bucket. I keep them in a bag because this one is wet, it's got paint on it. And by keeping it in the bag, it just keeps it wet, not forever, but for a few days. And a lot of the time, that's kind of what I need. I like to get these ones with the bars. They're more rigid and they don't come apart. As far as the sleeves, these are the best. So this is more for client work. This is a medium pile and this is a thick pile. The medium pile looks a bit like carpet. You don't want to get the one that's short pile because these are super thin. They'll give you a great job, but literally you're dipping your paint, your roller in the tray. You're doing like a line and then it's already out of paint. You got to dip it again. These ones are pretty good, but for painting in the street, I like this. It's very thick, and when you're painting over bricks or whatever, when you're in the street, it's not great. Having something like this makes the job a lot quicker. This is also quite useful. These are Ziploc bags, and when you're using a paintbrush, you can put that in there and then close it. This will actually keep the brush fresh up to 2 weeks. A plastic bag, only a few days, but something like this that's totally sealed, about 2 weeks. Eventually it'll dry out, but you've got quite a bit of time. So those are really cool. You'll definitely need some sandpaper, and I'll go over sandpaper in a bit. You need a mask. This is the one I like the most. This one is 4251 plus, and this is by 3M. They've got another one which I normally get, which is 06941, I think. It looks the same, but it does different things, like for particles, whatever. It's quite close on your face. It doesn't wiggle. I've got the other one of the cartridges. I've also got the full face. It depends what I'm doing. It's good to have different ones. For airbrushing, I normally just have a paper mask as opposed to a full-on gas mask. When you're airbrushing, you don't really have fumes, but you have particles, so you need something to block the particles. When you're using cans, you've got particles and fumes, so you need something heavy duty. About protection, you definitely need some gloves. So I've got 2 types of gloves. The black ones are the ones I use the most. I quite like those. And I use the clear ones when it's really sunny, because if I wear the black ones on a sunny day, it just gets too hot. So this is pretty good. Definitely need some type of paper, roll. You need some string. I don't like this string. Don't get this. I don't like this. But you need some type of string. It's great for doing circles. I always have like a couple of meters of string in my kit, just in case I need to do circles for clients. I have some kind of thing like this. This is a little pouch. It's a first aid pouch that I got, but it's got loads of goodies. It's got some money, it's got some plasters, definitely it's got some string, and it's got a bunch of connectors like USB to iPhone or to whatever. It's good to have all kind of connectors as well as some cables. It's got some mini pliers, some spare caps. What else? Got a lighter in there. Tape measure. This is from Muji, tiny but very useful. I've used it quite a bit. It's good to have a little pouch with a bunch of little random things, because when you get to the job, sometimes you need something, and it's useful. Always have some type of duct tape. These are just the thinner ones, and I find they work really well. I normally put them around a lighter so it doesn't take a lot of space. Q-tips. Q-tips are very useful for cleaning the airbrush, so you want to get some of those. You'll need some type of dust cover. When it comes to dust covers, these ones are, this is 12 microns, which is, it's fine for covering a TV or something like that, but it's not good to walk on, because every time you walk on, it just lifts up and it's a nightmare. For that, you want something which is about either 50 microns to 100 microns. That's basically the same sheet. This is 4 by 5 meters. I get these from Leyland. All of the ones they sell are 4 by 5 meters, more or less, but they get thicker and thicker. So this one is good for cover, 12 microns. Anything to put on the floor, 50 to 100 works pretty well. You'll need some filler sometimes to prepare the walls. You can get the ones that you mix yourself, and I'll explain that in the segment about filler. Or you can get the ready-made, which works pretty well. You'll need some of those. Those are really cool for effects. This is just a normal spray, and this is a pump spray. You pump it, and then you go up pressure, and then fill up with water or diluted paint. That's very useful. Another thing I use quite a bit when I'm painting outside and I'm on the pavement or whatever, just for safety, I'll use something like this, and then I'll use some tape or something, corner something off. A traffic cone is very useful. These are collapsible, so you just put them like that. And you get something very low profile, really cool, fits in the backpack. I normally get 2 of them, so I can go from the shop to one, to another one, and then back to the shop. An extension pole is really cool. This one is probably about, I don't know, 2.5 meters maybe. So you get this end to go on the roller. I also have the smaller rollers, by the way. You want some of those, they're really useful. But I was kind of gutted because I went home and I realized this is plastic, so it's probably going to break eventually at the wrong time. So when you get one of those, take this off and make sure this is metal. Don't do what I did. It's been good so far, but eventually I know it's going to break, so whatever. And last but not least, my ladder. I've had this for years. It's a really good ladder. It's, I think it's 3.2 meters. They come in a bunch of different sizes. This one is full of paint. This is as small as it goes. I really like this thing. I had another one, which was on, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 rungs. I had another one which was only 6 rungs, I think. This is about 10 kilos, that's 9.5 kilos, super heavy. The other one was about 5 kilos, and it was pretty good for most walls, basically. Go up to 3 meters. This one I could probably go up to 4 meters in a bit, maybe. So this is super cool, but man, it's heavy. It's so heavy I had to make this, which has one fixed wheel and one on a swivel. So I strap it up with a ratchet strap, and I get to just go around without having to carry it, because otherwise it just pulls my shoulder out and then I can't sleep that night. So really good ladder, but if you're gonna carry it for long distance, definitely you'll have to make something or get a smaller one. I had a smaller one, which was great, but somebody stole it. So I don't really want to buy another one. I'm just using this one and it just works. It's super flimsy, and at first it's a bit weird, but then you get used to it and you realize they're supposed to flex, and they work super well. I'm 100 kilos, which is however many stones, and I've been on this ladder for years. I think I've had this probably about 5 years now, and I really like it. So definitely get either a ladder or step ladder, depending on what you're comfortable with. And yeah, so that's it for the tools. Let's get on with the lessons.